President William Ruto has planted Kenya's flag at the center of East African economic future and has done it with steel, concrete, and the weight of a railway that has been deferred, delayed, and debated for over 6 years. On Saturday, the 21st of March 2026 at Kibos in Kisumu County, Ruto broke ground on Phase 2C of the standard gauge railway, the 107-kilometer section that would run from Kisumu to Malaba at the Kenya-Uganda border. This phase will extend through key counties in western Kenya before terminating at the border point that separate Kenya from Uganda. The ceremony was not merely symbolic, it was a declaration of a strategic intent. The railway expansion has previously stayed near Naivasha, failing more than 350 kilometers short of its intended endpoint at the Ugandan border. That stay lasted more than 6 years. The fact that Ruto is now moving and the moving publicly is the heartland of the opposition county, with Museveni standing beside him, tells a story far bigger than infrastructure. Railway is designed to carry up to 22 million tons of freight annually. Each freight train will have an haulage capacity of 4,000 tons, while a passenger train will carry up to 1,096 people at a speed of up to 120 kilometers per hour. These not an aspiration figures, they are the architect of the new continental trade system, with Kenya holding the keys. Transit cargo through the port of Mombasa reached 7.37 million tons in just 6 months of 2025, with nearly 70% of it destined for Uganda. Yet, that cargo is currently crawling. Cargo take up to 80 hours from Mombasa to Malaba and over 100 hours to Kampala, costing businesses and weakening Kenya's competitive market. The SGR extension is Ruto's answer to that bottleneck, and it is an answer directed as much as regional rivals at the domestic crisis. The Kisumu Malaba section will feature two main intermediate stations at Yala and Mumias, supported by additional crossing points across western Kenya and including Siaya, Vihiga County, Kakamega, and Busia. These are not random stops. They run through politically sensitive western Kenya terrain counties that have historically aligned with opposition forces. Building rail through this corridor is Ruto treating an economic needle through a political territory. Once completed, the railway will form a key part of the northern corridor linking Kenya to Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan, and further to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Five landlocked nations depend on effectiveness access to the Indian Ocean through Kenya. Ruto is positioning Kenya as an indispensable gateway to all of them, and the Kisumu Malaba line is the final piece of that architect. 2 days earlier, on Thursday, the 19th of March, Ruto had launched Phase 2B, the 262 kilometers Naivasha to Kisumu section at Emuruto in Narok County. The government appointed China Communication Construction Company as the lead contractor for the project, working alongside Kenya Railways. That appointment confirms the Belt and Road impromptu Kenya's infrastructure agenda, deepening the financial and diplomatic ties between Nairobi and Beijing, even as Kenya navigates relationships with Western partners. Naivasha Kisumu segment is targeted for completion by June 2027, although the timeline is considered ambiguous given the scale of the project and past delay. June 2027 is a random deadline. It lands squarely in the heart of Kenya's 2027 general election campaign season. If Ruto delivers or even appears close to delivering on a railway that previously government only promise, the political dividend is enormous. Uganda President Yoweri Museveni presence at the Kisumu launch elevates the event beyond domestic politics. Museveni did not travel to Kisumu to witness a groundbreaking. He came to ratify a bilateral infrastructure compact that bids Uganda's economic interests directly to Kenya's railway timeline. Once completed, the railway will facilitate a seamless movement of goods from the Indian Ocean to the hidden lands, drastically reducing the time and the cost associated with cross-border trade. Uganda's landlocked economy stands to gain as much as more than Kenya from this corridor. ODM leader Oburu Oginga was also present at the launch and received President Ruto during the ceremony. His presence is politically changed. Oburu leads an ODM that is now publicly cooperating with Ruto's government, a posture that remains contested within opposition ranks. His appearance beside President Ruto's launch infrastructure in Nyanza sends a signal to the ODM base that the party's leadership has chosen development engagement over political confrontation. Kisumu Governor Anyang' Nyong'o had weeks earlier rallied residents behind the project. Nyong'o described the project estimate at 600 billion shillings as having the potential to fundamentally reshape the regional economy by improving connectivity and lowering the cost of doing businesses. That endorsement from a governor whose county seat at the heart of opposition politics gives Ruto a local legitimacy that no amount of national messaging could manufacture. The National Lands Commission bears responsibility for land acquisition compensation of affected property owners and securing the railway corridor. Land compensation has derailed major infrastructure projects in Kenya before. How effective the NLC manage these projects is in Western Kenya will determine whether the construction timeline hold and whether local goodwill survives the reality of the displacement.